words. Leonardo noticed some destroyed boats anchored on the north side of the river. They were damaged when this river overflowed a few days back. It was a devastating river at times. The northern part behind those high cliffs that you see from here is the side where the river's wrath was fully unleashed. There were a few unlucky ones that were swept away and were never found. It happens at times. Leonardo just nodded at a remark of the Redth sailor. He knew it was spring. He remembered some lifeless creatures that he saw in Mathicus, and the sailors in front of him resembled their physical features. He boarded the large wooden boat as the sailors began to lower their sails. The boat headed towards the southeastern side of the Redth Land, passing the very high cliffs. As they sailed through the river, the other end was becoming clearer. Leonardo saw a pier stretching out from the bank to the waters where a boat could safely dock. At the end of the pier were small wooden boats that were swaying with the waves of the river lake. The vastness of the great river in the northern edges of the southern Redths made it behave like a peaceful lake and becomes only like a real river when heavy rains pour out. Its current usually moved towards the north, for the lands in the south were much higher than those in the north. It is only when spring comes that the flow of water reverses, for the heavy volume of water from the north was pushed by the strong and heavy winds to the south. Along the river lake were many sailboats as he saw several houses made of logs from afar. Smoke inside the woods was rising up to the sky, and he was seeing a vast village resting at the foot of a huge mountain that separated the northern Redths from their southern kind. The sailors carefully anchored the boat as they were met with the Redths clad in clothes of brown, black and red. They were traders from the southern Redths that the sailors had known for years. Some of them were their employers who paid them to bring their cargoes to Ozalbaneggs, while some were buyers of the products from the Ozalbaneggs. The sailors started to unload their cargoes while it was being picked up and loaded into the waiting carriages that were lined up at the pier. Another line of carriages were filled with goods ready to be loaded onto the ship as goods to be carried back to Ozalbanegg. Sacks filled with bread, barrels of wine, crates containing potteries and bricks, military supplies, and bunch of dry and brown leaves that were slipping out from the small openings of the sacks and crates. Kajunas. Leonardo alighted from the boat to the pier as he bid goodbye to the sailors. The southern Redths at the river bank were all staring at Leonardo as he avoided meeting their eyes while he walked to the river bank and began to step down towards the shores filled with pebbles and stones. As his feet touched the ground, a voice called upon him that he barely understood the language. "Hey you." He looked at the direction of the voice and he saw a fat, red-faced Redth pressing his right hand on the handle of a black-pointed cane which end was stuck to the ground. It was Revillho, the river chief. Behind him was about 8 Redths clad in grey clothes shaping their muscled bodies, while their arms, legs and shoulders were covered by metal-like armors, and black strings ran spiral on their limbs below the ankle to the tip of their black leathered sturdy shoes. Far behind them near the woods, a beautiful well-built log cabin rested where a few Redths, the same kind before him with the chief, were watching him. There were about 100 of them and all eyes were on the river. "Who are you? What made you come here?" Leonardo looked at Revillho and barely understood him. Leonardo still remembered some northern words that he learned first before he was taken custody by the Mals. "I am a traveler. I am going to the Redth Land. My name is Leonardo." "Goodness, you are in the Redth Land already. You mean you are going back to the north, aren't you?" Leonardo was unsure. He nodded. He was sent by the king. A sailor unloading a cargo from one of the carriages shouted, seeing Leonardo with the river chief. He then moved away towards the boat as he waved at Leonardo, who waved back. When he escaped from the palace at Ozalbanegg, he traveled the woods, crossed a wooden bridge between 2 high cliffs leading to the forest, and emerged in the river lake up north. He saw a few Redth sailors loading their cargoes onto their ship. He spoke the language he remembered from the north, and the sailors understood him as he offered them a few stones to bring him to the Redth Land. The Redths thought he was a high-ranking military officer of the northern Redths, for only such language was spoken by the generals of the Redth Land in the north. They were mostly Sumiks. Also, a Redth with a Sumik feature could be a rich trader from the north, for only a few of them lived, and those were the survivors of the past war at Agathansha who did not go with King Sekrim but elected to be normal civilians and traders. When the sailors saw him, they were all surprised like Revillho. They did not expect that a northern Redth would venture inside the Ozalbanegg land. Leonardo told them that the king of the Redths sent him to see the land of Ozalbanegg, for the king intended to visit it one day. The sailors believed him. Years changed the Redth traditions. After the death of King Sekrim, the Redth land was transformed as the new generation of Redths changed their ideologies and became successful in business trading with the Bikses, the Vamiths, and now, the Sumiks, who accepted them seeing them changed. Ning, from the line of the 5th generation of Sumiks, became the new king. When Agathansha got up and a month after the failed invasion by the Bikses, they sailed to the Bikses' land to destroy their remaining army. Nin and the remaining Redth soldiers helped the Sumiks, learning that the Bikses were nothing but traitors who killed their king. This started the good relations between Agathansha and their once exiles. However, their forces were driven away by an unknown kind that helped Bixar. They were unprepared at the sudden presence of thousands of Bixar's unknown defenders. They retreated and planned their next attack. However, just as their full force arrived at Bixar, they saw Bikses surrendering even before they reached their lands, as they saw the Bikses villages destroyed. They were told then that the unknown kind did it to them, who vanished just as they appeared after the rampage. No one could tell how and where the dark kinds went, and this became an unsolved mystery. Years passed and Bixar recovered. Agathansha left Bixar on its own, seeing the gravity of their destruction from the hands of the unknown kinds. Agathansha feared not the Bikses anymore, but the unknown kinds that they learned to be the Malservius. They sent scouts to several lands in the west, but none ever saw any trace or trails of the dark kinds anymore. From time to time, Sumiks visited the Redth Land. However, they were asked to not go to the south or even at Ozulbeneg to keep the Redth's relations with the Ozulbenegs. Anyone with a Sumik feature was not allowed to visit the southern territory, and this became King Sekrim's legacy. King Sekrim's influence in creating an image of an Ozulbeneg god in the form of a Sumik was the reason, and they do not want the Ozulbenegs to lose their trust with the Redths that Agathansha respected. I see. Welcome to the Southern Redth Land, my friend. Come, follow me. We will have wine first before you return to the north. I am sure you will tell him about me. He likes the wine I sent to him so much. Leonardo was unsure, but found himself walking side by side with Revillho towards the beautiful cabin that he saw. He followed Revillho to his abode near the woods, where behind them were Revillho's private guards. Revillho was from the lines of the Bikses. As Revillho went inside his house, leaving Leonardo at the porch, Leonardo saw the richness of his host. Around the cabin rested several bronze and golden statues of land animals and birds, and a small fountain with glittering stones in the middle of his yard was providing coziness. The river from afar looked like an amazing scenery, as the vastness of the water extended towards several high mountains covered with thin fogs from afar before him. When Revillho emerged from the door, he was carrying large canisters made out of smooth and delicately carved wood. He gave one to Leonardo, who was amazed at its fine carvings on the sides with figures of animals and houses, until he recognized the face among the carvings. It was Revillho's face. Revillho laughed, seeing Leonardo's amazement at what he was holding. Ha ha ha, my friend, that wooden canister was a gift to me by fine carvers who are my friends from the mountains in the north. You are lucky, for I never offered such thing that you are holding now to be used except when I am with special visitors, for we will drink a special wine. A wine especially made for the kings and the northern Redths like you. Leonardo looked at Revillho and gave a hapless smile. You will see how we get wine from nature and how good our wines are. Come, follow me. They went to the back end of his house, walked along a path where a vast and a beautiful garden rested, and on its perimeter were the same kinds of bronze statues of animals that he just saw by the porch. There was a windmill that powered several rotating wooden machineries as it sucked water underground that were enclosed by delicately piled logs like a small beautiful cabins. In the right middle side of the garden he saw another beautiful cabin where young and beautiful Redth women, dressed in white silk garments revealing their slender and curved bodies, gathered together as they played and ate together on a long wooden table served by Revillho's servants. On some parts of the wide garden he saw other servants tending to the plants, colorful flowers and delicately cut grasses, providing soothingness and beauty on the deftly green landscape, and from afar, a fine fence enclosing several large and high-bred horses. It was the first time that he saw horses, and he was amazed by them. They emerged inside the woods, where he saw medium-sized hollow logs running straight as if they were connecting many uncanny-looking trees as it passed through its trunks that ended on a large wooden structure from afar. The wooden warehouse seemed to be part of nature, for many of the wooden pipes passed through its walls, making it look like it were piles of logs delicately put together for the pipes, and its walls were of the same colors and shapes. He saw many workers busy as they rolled barrels onto waiting carriages. The leaves of the odd-looking trees were red and yellow, and its branches were extending straight down to the ground as if it was supporting its large trunk. He had never seen like it, for such kind of trees could only be found at the south of the Redth Land. Revillho's taste for landscape, architecture, and fineness was extraordinary, for none around Leonardo's eyes could make his sight soar. Everything was about beauty, soothness and extreme delicateness, for everything was clean and symmetrically placed. Revillho stopped at the uncanny tree. It was the only tree that was not attached to anything except to its branches that Leonardo noticed to have embedded itself on its soils like support structures of a long and straight post. This is my tree. They are popularly called Asrex, from the beautiful goddess of the forest, Nitzrek. Revillho took out a dagger from his side pocket. He went to the tree and studied its bark so carefully as if he was speaking to it. He carefully wounded it, and out from the wound came a crystal-like liquid squirting and rushing down on its bark like waterfalls as Revillho quickly filled his container with it. Leonardo followed, and when their containers were all filled, Revillho plucked out a leaf from the same tree and sealed its wound with it. Leonardo watched as the bark sucked the leaf inside until it was gone from his view. Moments later, the wound on the bark healed, leaving no mark that it was wounded. Leonardo couldn't believe what he just saw. Amazing, huh? That is why it is my tree. I see myself in her, sometimes. Come, follow me, and let us drink together. This time Revillho led him to a patio onto an open space inside the woods. Leonardo saw some redths roasting a boar, and they all looked different. Revillho pulled a chair underneath a large wooden and smooth table. On the other side, he asked him to do the same. As they sat together, a redth brought them grilled meat and fish served in a large green leaf and placed it on the table. Cheers! Revillho raised his drink and Leonardo did the same. The taste of the wine was good, but not better than the wine he had at Maphicus. "What brought you to the south, my friend?" asked Revillho. Leonardo looked at him. "The king sent me to know what was happening here. He wanted to see the Southern land one day. Can I ask you, have you seen anyone here like me?" Revillho looked closely at Leonardo. Perplexed, he replied. "You mean the other northerner who came here before you?" "Yes. Why? What do you mean?" "Come on. I am King Nin's friend, though he doesn't know me at all. If you are here because you are looking for the first messenger of the king from the north, then you are wasting your time searching for him at Southern. He had never been there. He went to the quarters of the southern army, and I heard he left 3 days ago. Don't tell me he never returned to the north. That is why the king was searching for him." Yes, we were supposed to go back together. I was assigned to look into the Southern land, and here. Leonardo pretended a new role as he searched for words to connect him to the stranger Revillho just spoke. It made him feel good that sooner or later he could see somebody resembling his own looks. Now he knew that they were from the north of the Redth land. The king probably was feeling that we are not okay in the south, right? What do you mean? You were sent here because you wanted to know about the south, to report about the going on. Apparently, the king is not happy with what he was hearing about us, right? Revillho looked at Leonardo, but Leonardo did not say a word, for he didn't know what Revillho was really talking about. He was not good at lying, as he just kept silent and took another sip of his wine. This time it was tasting better, for the first one just stirred his buds, making it adjust to its real and sweet taste. The king must know that what he feels is right. Since he sent the new army head, everything here changed. Our relations with the Southern were going bad because those officers that you sent here are just doing trouble. King Nin should send his army here to tell the others that he is still the king of the Redths and not just you and the other one. I will not be surprised if the first one who came here was not able to return to tell King Nin of the going on here. Why? What was happening here? I will tell you, because I am not afraid to tell anyone about what I know and I see. That Dianat you sent here made our lives difficult. We want to make good business and trade, but since he came in, he made the process difficult. They made us report all the things that we trade with the Southern and with the Northern Redths. They inspected everything we shipped out, but the truth is they just wanted a piece of it. Daily, we deliver to the southern force 1/10 of what we trade, and this is costing us so much. You must tell King Nin that the south will soon collapse because of the corrupt soldiers here. Leonardo was getting the sense of what Revillho was saying. Since he pretended to be a northerner, he played on his new role. "Do you have proof?" Revillho sipped from his container again and shook his head. "If you mean proof of corruption, then I don't have. But proof that I delivered part of what I trade to the soldiers, yes. I know, they will say they don't ask for it. It is easy. But every trader knows that it is necessary, so our lives will not be difficult." "It was your fault then. You corrupted them." "They did not corrupt you. They just put order to the business by setting rules. But you were all unused to those and instead offered them something to make your life easy. In short, so they will not be behind your tails." Revillho looked at Leonardo and he sipped once more, finishing his wine. He motioned to a Redth serving them to bring him some more wine. The Redth returned, this time, with a large canister filled with it. He poured another one, filling his jug that overflowed, spilling some of the liquid onto the smooth surface of the table. "Yeah, you're right. We are partly to be blamed, and this is costing us so much. But what can we do now? It has been like that since. Follow the rules. Send them nothing anymore. For sure, they will be surprised why you stopped sending them anything. Then, they will be at your doors. They will ask why, and you can just say that your business is not doing well. If they insist that you send them their part like you used to, then you will have proof that they are extorting from you. That is easier said than done. It is already cancer, and I will be the lone one in case. I guess I just have to live with it unless all the armies here are replaced." Every officer in the Southern Force now had a hand on all the traders, and some traders, especially those who trade illegal products like Cajuna, have made the force so fat. It is a very big syndicate here, and anyone who goes against them just vanished without a trace. When you said that you will not be surprised if the other one did not return to the north, what do you mean? It means he vanished like the others. The army does not want anything bad to reach the north. I heard that the messenger was sent by King Nin here to advise the Southern Redth army to withdraw their forces at Ozulbaneg and let the Ozulbaneg land's internal affairs be solved by them. That will not happen. The army benefits much from the Ozulbanegs because of the Cajuna traders. If they withdraw from Ozulbaneg, no one would protect the Cajuna traders at Ozulbaneg land. Ozulbanegs are the biggest users of Cajuna, and that is the reason why Dianat, the head of the Southern Army, was instilling that they are needed at Ozulbaneg. It is not because the Zixes are making lots of trouble there, no, it is because of that big business at the riverbank. I heard that Dianat did not listen to the messenger, and I also heard that the messenger met an accident. He fell on the mountain, but his body was never found. You see, anyone who will cause trouble to the business just disappears. You must be careful yourself, for if the Southern Force heard you came, they may find you, and you too may suffer the same fate as your colleague. Leonardo just nodded at Revillho, and Revillho's revelations made him feel cold. He alighted from his chair as he left the wooden canister on the table. I must go now. Thanks for the wine. I will tell King Nin of what you said, and rest assured that we will do something about it. However, I need your help. If what you are saying is true, that every soldier is part of the trade, then the only way to restore the trust of the traders is to make the Southern Force weak. Either we send our forces here to clean the army or replace all the officers of the force. It is not easy to do that, and we need proof that the Southern Force is part of the evil things that are happening here. If you can do me a favor, talk with your fellow traders who are clean and make them all report to King Nin together with your evidences. I am sure the king will all listen to you. Also, identify the traders that were part of it, and when you are ready, let me know and I will arrange your meeting with the king. Before Revillho could reply, a Redth servant together with a few armed Redths emerged from the alley. He was breathing heavily. There is a tragedy at Ozulbaneg. King Didi is dead, and so was Dianat and all the Redth soldiers at the palace. The Ozulbanegs killed them all, and our soldiers were taken prisoners. They blamed it against us, and now the Ozulbanegs barred the land against us. Revillho looked at Leonardo with wide eyes as he stood up, balancing himself with his cane. My goodness, I did not expect that it will be this soon. Now it is turning ugly. Leonardo was surprised. He did not expect the sudden turn of events, for all the while he was thinking that the Ozulbanegs would be under Dianat's command. What he did not understand was why Dianat was killed, and he sensed that the Ozulbanegs found out about Dianat's evil plan. He thought about Calypso. He must be searching for him. The servant spoke again while staring carefully at Leonardo. The Ozulbanegs are also looking for a stranger who came to their land, who they believed started everything. Revillho looked at Leonardo with wide eyes as he gargled the remaining wine that he had. So it's you. What have you done? Leonardo was unsure of Revillho. His private guards came to their boss' side. He spoke calmly. I was there in the palace when the king was murdered by Dianat. He poisoned the king and set me up. I did not do it. I escaped before they could lay their hands on me. I guess the Ozulbanegs found out that Dianat orchestrated everything. That is why he is dead, and that is perhaps the reason why the Ozulbanegs were waging war on the Redths. They are looking for me because they think I did it. Revillho was studying Leonardo. He sat down once more and peered up at his guest while leaning his elbows on the table as he clicked the fingers of his hands together. Didn't you? Leonardo was silent, and this time he was quite unsure, for some of Revillho's guards were at his back. Then, Revillho lifted himself up once more. He turned his back at Leonardo. Forget it. I don't care if the Ozulbanegs are waging war with us. This is good. First, Dianat is dead, and now, the Northerners would know the real state of the South with this. Tell King Nin that the Ozulbanegs are not our enemy, and he must send help here fast, because this could turn into a bloody mess. Leonardo felt safe seeing Revillho approving of what had happened. He gave a nod and began to pick up his bag. Revillho was just looking closely at Leonardo as he cupped his container and drank his wine once more. It has been a while, and I have been waiting for this time to come. I just did not expect it to be so soon. Copa, prepare the boat and make sure our friend reaches the north. He then looked at Leonardo. You should not be traveling in the mountains. It is dangerous out there. Dianat's mercenaries hang out in that place, and anyone that passes in the mountain is taken care of by the soldiers. Some failed to come back, I think all of them. You must understand that there were many attempts to inform the north about the going on in the south, and all of them failed. Either they just disappear or found dead in the ravines. We believe that the soldiers had a hand on it. I would like you to be safe on your way back. Leonardo nodded at Revillho and thanked him. He turned his back and walked away, following Revillho's servants. Inside Revillho, he knew Leonardo was lying. He heard about the strange visitor at Ozulbeneg from the stories of the Redth soldiers. He knew about the going on inside the Ozulbeneg land, for he was the biggest Kajuna trader at the Redth and Ozulbeneg lands. The Redth soldiers were under his payroll, including Dianat. At Bixar, Revillho was a powerful icon among Kajuna growers and traders. He went to the south to establish his base, and in the process he lured the Redth soldiers with wealth and pleasures in exchange for a piece of the southern land and the Ozulbeneg land. Within a few years, his business prospered and he became the biggest shipper of Kajuna from Bixar to the Southern Redth Land to Ozulbeneg. The Southern Redths and the Ozulbenegs immediately embraced his product, and the South became the biggest wealth machine for him until he decided to live in the South, seeing its vast potential, bringing all his resources from Bixar, including his own army of mercenaries called the Jujingjings. Business with the Gathansha fell after many of his servants and fellow traders were captured by the Sumiks. He was searched by them, and this made him move to the south. All who blocked his plan died. All who crossed his path were killed. He believed Leonardo was not from the north by his accent, but he however was unsure if Leonardo was from Igathansha. He poured his canister with wine, and while looking at Leonardo leaving, he called upon another servant, a Jujingjing. Whoever he is or where he came from, he should not reach the north. Just like the old ways, take care of him. Also, tell Maffer, those Ozulbenegs must learn a lesson. We must rise against the death of the Red soldiers and tell him we should go to war against them. This is not good for business. Once you dispose of that Sumi, go to Bixar and tell our friends there that we need them here. We couldn't afford to lose our business at the Ozulbeneg land. His servant nodded. Maffer was the second in command of Dianat, stationed at the south. He too benefited from Revillho and did whatever he wished. Revillho's low profile made him undisturbed in trading Kajuna in the south, even in Igathansha then. He was just a figure that they imagined. His name they knew, but not his face and body, for he used many mediums to get what he wanted. Inside himself, he was the king of the Southern Redths, for he could influence the Redth army. The fate of any Redth messenger sent by the north to the south rested on him. He lured some to tell the north that the south was in good shape and nothing bad was happening, and those he did not trust were all murdered and their death was arranged to look like accident. Leonardo was different. He was surprised that a Sumi came to the south and originated from the Ozulbeneg land. It was not possible, for never would the Northern Redth land do it for fear of breaking relations with the Ozulbenegs. Was he a spy of Igathansha? For what? He thought. He did not believe Leonardo's story, and he knew that he was not the king's messenger that he pretended to be, but it did not matter now, for he knew Leonardo would be taken care of soon. Like the others he took care of, who were now skeletons or decomposing bodies in the ravines of their great mountain in the north of the great river.